Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, where we look at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hi, and welcome back. I'm your hostess, Cindy Murray, and I'm here with my co hosts, Amber Jones and Kristen Hessler.
Hello.
Hello.
And if you are joining us for the first time, we welcome you to our little podcast. We are three women who have various points of view. We're in various stages of our lives, and we like to share our different points of view on life in all its glory. And if you've been here before, then welcome back. I think you've probably joined in the conversation too. This week we are talking about something, and I have to have a little giggle about the topic today. We had it on the calendar as National Moon Day on July 20th. And we thought it was some sort of Wiccan celebration or something, because we have this little Wiccan calendar that pops up and shows us all the little holidays. And
Yeah,
we like to kind of
try to
do a
follow
little
it.
shout out or something about them if there's something fun. And so we thought, we'll do a thing about the moon. I love talking about the moon because my name is Cindy. That stems from the name Cynthia, which is, of course, another name for the moon goddess Diana. And so, anything about the moon, I'm always, it's fun. And then plus we are the maiden, mother, and crone, the triple goddess symbolized by the moon. So moon, hey, what's not to celebrate there, right? And then we started doing a little further research and realized, oh my gosh, why didn't I know this? I should have known this. That it is actually the celebration of the moon landing, which happened when I was a kid, long before you came about, you guys. But I mean, I remember the moon landing, and it was, quite a thing when I was a kid, and so I'm all for celebrating that anyway, and but it also happens to fall on the 21st is a full moon, and it is also National Witches Day. And we've kind of had a couple of little things that kind of, I don't know, maybe contradicted that said that National Witches Day was in November the 16th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got multiple sources giving different dates, but we're going to go with it because, hey, it's
Celebrate everything.
let's celebrate.
Yes,
Let's celebrate.
all the time.
So I want to start with the moon celebration, or the landing of the moon. I don't have a whole lot to add to this, but I had some interesting facts, and like I said, this was something that happened when I was a kid. I remember watching moon landings in school when I was in kindergarten, and the first one, of course, happened on July the 21st, 1969. So that was in the summer. I was not in school. And that was when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. And that was quite a historic event. And some people think, there was the Apollo missions or whatever, and that's all there was. But that's actually not true. There have been more than 100 attempts or moon missions throughout the history of Earth's attempts to go to the moon. 100, more than 100, and most of us don't know about any of these.
No.
The moon is really interesting in that it is the only world the only world other than Earth that has been walked on by man.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And it's a
By Earth's mankind.
right. Exactly. But it's kind of like a obvious choice, because a lot of people go, why do we want to go to the moon? Well, for the obvious choice, it is the closest celestial body.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a couple of days away from us at this point, in our technology. So it's pretty easy to get. I say pretty easy. That is a relative term here, to get to the moon. So it's a lot easier than getting to, say, Mars or Venus or something like that. So the moon is an obvious target for our exploration. And there's still a ton of stuff we don't know about the moon. But by studying the moon, we can learn more about how the Earth and our solar system was formed. So there's a lot of information still to be gathered there. As I mentioned, there have been more than 100 missions to the moon, not just by the U.S. but by China, the USSR, which is now known as Russia, Japan, India, China. Did I mention China? I think I may have. There's been all these different missions, and I wanted to kind of just go over a few of them with you that were of note because I thought they were really interesting. The first mission that had anything to do with the moon was the Pioneer Zero mission on August 17th, 1958. And it actually was a complete failure because it exploded 77 seconds after takeoff. And after quite a few other failures, they finally, the U.S., that was a U.S. mission, they finally got Pioneer 4 off the ground and did a near pass of the moon on March the 3rd, 1959, and it wound up orbiting the sun and decelerating into the sun. At the same time, the USSR was also sending missions to the moon, and their first one, I believe, that was successful was an impacture attempt. So the idea is you send the rocket or whatever to the moon, and it just impacts at the moon, and they collect data on the way down. And that was their Luna 2 attempt. That was actually the 13th attempt by mankind to reach the moon on September 12th of 1959. And then there was a lot of different ones. The Russians did a soft landing on the moon and collected a lot of data. There were some different things like that. The U.S. had some soft landings on the moon. And then the Apollo 8, which was the 51st mission to the moon. Apollo 8 was the first crewed flight around the moon. That was the first time anybody had flown around the moon. And then later the Apollo 11, as I mentioned, landed with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins stayed aboard the flight module above. Apollo 12 also landed on the moon. And then I think a lot of us know the story from the movie by the same name of Apollo 13, where Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Jack Swigert had an explosion of one of their oxygen tanks on the way to the moon, and they were not able to. They had to go into the lunar module to live for the rest of their trip, and they just went around the moon and came back, which was obviously very disappointing for them. But we are ever so thankful that they made it back.
They had an adventure, though.
They did have an adventure. They have a story to tell for the rest of their lives. Well, the ones that are still alive, I guess. And anyway, they did go back successfully to the moon with Apollo 14 through 17. Apollo 17 was the last crewed mission that went to the moon. And it was the first one that had an actual scientist, a geologist, on board. So up until that time, all of the astronauts had been pilots.
Yeah.
And then that was Harrison Schmitt, and he was a geologist. And his crew commander, I believe is what they're called, was Gene Cernan, who was the commander, the Houston-based commander of the control center during the Apollo 13 mission. He had been on many other missions in the command or in the Houston based control thing, and he finally got to go to the moon himself and land on the moon with Apollo 17. There's a lot of time that kind of went by. That was in the 70s. Mission number 92 was with China, and I believe I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Chang'e 1. That was in October of 2007. They had, I guess, an unmanned land. Everything else after that has been unmanned, obviously. But they had an unmanned landing. India had the Chandrayaan 1. I'm not sure if that's the way to pronounce that. And they actually discovered water on the South Pole of the moon. And that has kind of encouraged a huge resurgence in interest in the moon, because the presence of water means they can create oxygen. They can have water for, man to live, oxygen to live, and they can create fuel because they have hydrogen. So that's a big thing. Maybe someday we can have men on the moon living there permanently or temporarily or whatever, which allows us to do further science experiments. There's a lot of different things that they can do in
because of the gravity,
low gravity or no gravity, that like certain medications and crystals that can be grown and things like that. It opens up a wide array of possibilities. In December of 2022, a SpaceX Falcon 9. Oh, wait a minute. Did I do that right? I'm not sure. I may have mixed up some of my info here. The 100th mission to the moon was an iSpace M1. And okay, I think I made another note there that went somewhere else. And then the Indian Chandrayaan 3 actually successfully landed on the moon. Japan had the SLIM in January of this year. And the Intuitive Machines IM-1 landed successfully somewhat. I believe the last three are questionably successful. They landed, but in some cases they fell over and had some issues. And that was in February. And then in April of 2023, I don't know where this came in or how I missed this or something. SpaceX actually crashed a Falcon 9 on the moon. So there's a kind of a
crashed.
I think it crash landed. I think it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
There's been several of them where they landed upside down or something happened. They fell over. So obviously, with 100 and some odd missions, they're not all successful.
And we don't really hear about them unless you follow science websites.
Yes. And these missions go on. There are many, many, many planned missions to the moon, and I feel like they're very important, and we don't hear as much about them, or we make jokes about them, because they land sideways or whatever. But it's still very risky, tricky business. That's why we haven't set people back.
It's a lot of money and time invested.
And it's a lot of money, of money. I think it's well worth it, but and we want to celebrate those accomplishments. That what man has been able to do in that regard is nothing short of amazing. Bringing men back from the moon, landing successfully, bringing them back even though their oxygen tank blew up. And that the ingenuity, if you have not watched Apollo 13, I'm sure it's very dramatized. You can say the word better than I can. It's very dramatic, but if you're living it, that was pretty dramatic. I think that's an important thing. So I want to, even though that wasn't what we thought Moon Day was about, I think that's just such a fascinating thing, and I hope we've enlightened you with a few little facts. And if you're interested in it, go check it out. Go check out NASA. I will also note that a lot of the American moon landings and missions that are going on right now are actually fueled not by government agency, but by private sector. SpaceX, Intuitive Machines, different private entities that are fueling our new moon race. And by having that in the private sector, it encourages that competition, that race to get there and be the first company that can,
innovate something.
Yes. Yeah. And the innovations that we get from the moon race have been profound throughout all of our lives. There are things that were invented for our space program that we use every day that we take for granted. Ballpoint pens that will work in any direction. Velcro, Tang. There's so many things. Computers. The computers that we have were designed originally, they stem from the computers they designed for NASA, and that trickle down technology has become things that we use all the time. So, I always cringe when people say, "Why are we spending money on space?" Well, it's because space, that sense of exploration, encourages that innovation that you talk about, and that innovation always winds up helping us in some way. They learned things about food preservation and all kinds of things, with that. So I think it's really important. And we are also running out of resources on our planet. Mm-hmm. So unless we can find ways to, obtain resources from other places to replace those that have been depleted here, and we have a continually growing population, unless we can find ways for mankind to move out among the stars, we are going to become basically landlocked here on Earth, and we will destroy ourselves. So it's really important to continue that research, to continue that advance out into space. So that's my soapbox. I'm getting off of it right now. So, and we'll get on to the other part of this. As I mentioned, there is a full moon coming up on the 21st. Yes. And we love celebrating. I do. I don't know. I love celebrating the full moon. The moon is beautiful. I think it is a beautiful celestial body. I love how it just lights up the night, and you can see so well in the night. I like to make moon water. I use the moon water to water my plants and to run my diffusers. And does it imbue special powers? I don't know. Some people think it does. Some people think it doesn't. It's fun. I stick me a bottle of water outside and let it soak up as much moonlight as I can, and then I use it. So, it's fun. Do y'all do anything with the moon, with the full moon, ever?
Just making water, and then like the new moon intentions. So
I do the new moon intentions also. Yes.
I mean, a lot of things in our everyday lives that, if you do stuff with anything like zodiac and
Oh, yeah.
and astrological type things are all based on the
The
bodies.
lunar cycles.
Yeah, and the lunar cycle, and
Anybody who
And-
thinks that the moon does not affect the Earth or doesn't affect you,
so wrong. Yeah.
the tides. Can I say the tides? Just start there. and if it can affect the tides of the Earth, what about the
Oh.
water in your body? So
Mhm.
you know,
I'm a teacher, and I used to be a police dispatcher. The full moon definitely affects people.
oh, absolutely, I believe it does. And I really do think it's the gravitational effect of the moon on the water. And you know, we're made up of water. You know. And so, why wouldn't it bother? You know, bother. It bothers you, but
I'm
you
not bothered.
know. Well, some people get hot and bothered, you know. But
Some people turn into wolves.
if they they do. But so that you know, there's a little thought there. So I don't know. And then there's the National Witches Day. Like I said, there's a little controversy. I don't know if it's controversy, contradiction there. I guess.
Yeah,
is
I,
what
don't,
it is.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
like,
controversy. There's
No, nobody's
maybe
arguing.
Our controversy is like, where's the facts? Yeah.
Right. We tried to find, you know, where's this source of this coming from, and where's this, and there's like multiple websites that have the same information but different dates.
Yeah.
So you know, it's like, okay, I don't really know. So I'm one of those people that I'm like, what's wrong with just celebrating? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
just celebrate yourself that day.
yeah. So what kind of celebrations do you guys like to do?
Well, so that particular holiday I have never celebrated before.
Me either.
because
So
it just,
obviously,
you
I didn't
know,
even know it
We
existed. So
subscribed to one of the holiday calendars and shared it with each other, and we were like,
ooh,
ooh.
fun.
So, this one in particular is, you know, basically saying celebrate, you know, everything and anything that has to do with the craft.
yeah.
So, I mean, if someone told me like, okay, here's your task is to celebrate this holiday, I would say, okay, maybe have like a little ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of self-care, and because the craft is really about like you connecting with the, you know, earth,
Nature, the
wind,
earth,
fire,
yeah,
right?
the
So,
elements.
the elements. So being one with nature
Your inner self. Or
and
your-
listening to your inner self and just like connecting. So maybe have a little ritual and treat yourself, a little self-care.
Journaling,
Journaling.
I was thinking
read your tarot cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one. I was thinking candles or a bonfire. You know, those are often
Yeah.
things that people do. Some are
Have
little-
a party. Have
Oh,
a gathering.
yeah, and see,
with
and I
candles
always-
and a bonfire.
I think of maybe because of a lot of the time in my history of, you know, Wiccan, you know, being very solitary.
right.
You know, literally like a
Right.
solitary witch.
Right.
So I always think of the celebrations as a singular me only.
private thing.
And I don't really think about like, oh yeah, have a bonfire and invite people over, like
Right.
But
Well, and,
totally,
you know,
and invite your witches over.
right.
yeah,
Well, and you know, I'm not Wiccan. I don't identify as Wiccan. I
Right.
identify as a Christian, but I believe in the good that and the power that God gives to me
Mhm.
to use, you know. And so in those ways, I think of what kind of good things can I do that day?
Mhm.
What kind of good can I bring into the world?
yeah, and have a
Um,
little gratitude or something.
Yes. You know, maybe some prayerfulness or meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or you could use it as a day of remembrance for all of the people who are like convicted of being a witch.
Right.
Sorry, a lot.
Oh,
Probably
of the word.
interesting.
Mhm.
Even often falsely.
Yeah,
you know,
accused.
so-
That's the word. I was like, what's that word? Accused.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that as well, you know, because there's been a lot of people saying that word, and this is another thing too. Maybe use it as an opportunity for education and enlightenment, because a lot of
Mhm.
people have negative connotations about using the word witch. I will say myself, I had those same negative connotations about that word for the longest time. And as I grew up, I was told there were black witches and white witches, or good witches and
Right.
bad witches. Think of the Wizard of Oz,
Right.
But
Are you a
I
good
think
witch
it's
or a bad witch. I'm a
right.
sandwich.
Oh my.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Does that mean you're a dirty witch?
Yeah.
Sand.
Dirty sand.
Okay.
Okay, wow. She's a little slow on the uptake today.
I guess I don't think of sand as dirty, so.
Okay. Anyway, but I mean, I like I said, I think maybe that's a good opportunity to educate people that being a witch doesn't mean you're not. It doesn't mean you worship the devil or whatever. Satanism and witchcraft are two totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
And witchcraft doesn't mean that you're worshiping anything. It's not well, unless you're Wiccan,
Mm-hmm.
I would suppose it's not even really a religion.
Right.
So it's just more of a practice.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, throughout history, lots and lots of people who practiced craft that we would call witches now. So
Yeah.
apothecary, or
Mhm.
Well,
herbalists, things like that.
Alchemists.
Alchemists,
even,
yeah, any of that stuff that was considered to be witchcraft. And there were I'm
Science.
thinking of, I would think, well,
right, literally.
Yeah.
Science.
right. I'm thinking, like of the
Math.
the Celts,
Yeah, right. It
in
still
the
is.
in the Irish and the Welsh and some of those people, they had the women,
Midwives.
the midwives, often did, they would make herbs and tinctures or whatever to
Mhm.
ease the pains of childbirth, or things like that. That was considered witchcraft.
Yeah.
And in many ways, it's no different than what modern witches do with herbs or essential oils or things like that. So, being a witch is not necessarily something bad. Well, obviously, not necessarily something bad, but a lot of people don't realize what being a witch entails. I guess is what
Mhm.
I'm saying. So maybe that's a good point to make make it a day of
Witchy
enlightenment,
awareness.
witch awareness day. Yeah,
There
I-
we go. We're going to change
So-
the name.
there we go. Yeah, that's a good idea. But I think there's so many different things, in different ways you can celebrate that. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I may think about it for a little bit. But do y'all have plans yet?
I'm
Not
going to read
yet, but-
my tarot cards.
Yeah.
I do that
I'm
every
gonna
day.
do
So
some journaling.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, stuff I do every day.
Me too.
Right.
Me too. Yeah.
Maybe do a little DIY project.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
But I think that we should have that gathering.
I think so
With the
too. That would be
bonfire.
fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't looked at the calendar again, except when I saw that it was Moon Day. So yeah, that'd be fun.
We can gather and set our intentions
Uh-huh.
like we did last summer
Yeah.
on my bachelorette trip.
Right? Yeah.
We gathered, we set our intentions, we did a spell.
No, we didn't do intentions, did we? At the full
No,
moon?
no.
No.
We made moon water. We charged
Right.
all of our
Because
crystals,
there was a
and we
full
did a
moon. Yeah.
and
yeah,
we
it was
did
a
a
full moon.
spell.
Yeah, and we did a spell. Yes, we did. A spell for a happy marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did. And so far, so good. Yeah. She didn't answer. Jason, shh. Don't tell Jason. No, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that, and yeah, it was nice and quiet and fun. Well, that's really all I had for this podcast because, I'm just kind of throwing the info out there for you guys to
Fun
listen to,
facts.
fun
Yeah.
facts, and
And if you want to know more about witchy celebrations or anything pagan, hit us up.
Yeah.
Especially Kristen and I.
Kristen and Amber know a lot more about it because they've kind of been in that realm a lot longer than I have, and but I can also talk to
Mhm.
people who are concerned that it affects your Christianity or whatever because
Yeah.
I come from that different perspective of it, and I have to absolutely say that it's two different things. They're not mutually exclusive. So
Of course not.
no. So hit us up on our MMC chat Facebook group. You can get there from our Facebook page, Modern Musings. And you can also get there from our website, modernmusings.net. And that's where you'll see our blogs,
Past podcasts.
past podcasts. You can link to a whole lot of different things from there, and including information in our bios. So go on and check us out. And I think we may have some information from some past podcasts about,
Yes.
I will put those on heard it on the podcast. So that's always on there as well. So
Yeah.
enjoy your National Moon Day, your Witches Day, and the full moon. And we'll be back next week with information. What are we talking about, Amber?
We're talking about AI.
Ooh.
Like the rise of AI. Like, why is it suddenly everywhere?
Oh.
Have we entered the Matrix?
Ooh. All right. I don't know about this. Okay. Well, we'll be back next week with information or our information about, or a discussion
Our
about
discussion about AI.
AI. And you have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.